This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Opsgenie by Atlassian. With Opsgenie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Visit Opsgenie.com for your free account. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this time we're back with another Take Control author with a brand new title, and it's a title I'm really excited about because it's an app that I've had more and more enthusiasm for as it's improved. Since it was introduced, it's just gotten better and better. And so I'm hoping that Mr. Josh Centers can teach me a few things about it. Josh, welcome. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Chuck.
So this time we are talking about Take Control of Notes, the application from Apple that is on your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac. It probably hangs out on your watch too. I haven't even thought about that. But yeah, I love this app. And so it seems like every iteration of system software, it seems to get a little better. Is that a fair statement?
Not every single time, but it's definitely improved a lot in the past few years. You might remember when the Notes app first shipped in, was it 2007 now at this point? It's a pretty old app. It was very, very basic, very skeuomorphic originally. It had the yellow background and the ruled, like it was ruled paper, and had the terrible marker felt font. It didn't sync with anything. Well, I think it synced with IMAP, but there was no iCloud sync. It was just extremely basic and not very attractive. And then over the past few iOS versions, especially I think it was iOS 10 and especially iOS 11, they've added a lot of features to it, a lot of formatting options. Of course, with iOS 7, it got a lot better looking. So it's improved dramatically over the past few years to the point where at least for me, it's the main Notes app I use. I don't, I no longer use Evernote. I don't use OneNote or any of these more advanced Notes apps. I just use the Notes app built in to all my devices, and I've been doing that for years now. And so I've really been pushing Joe Kissel over to Take Control. Let me do a notes book. And we did a reader survey recently, and we asked people. We said, hey, what titles would you like to see? And one of the top request was a book about notes. And so Joe finally relented. He's like, okay, fine, write the notes book.
Well, Notes as a category, not the application, but Notes as a category is fascinating because there's so many different approaches to it and so many different ways people use Notes. I mean, some people want kind of almost a full-blown word processor in their Notes app, and others just want something to scratch down, something quick that they can find. But my story is like yours. I was using multiple Notes apps. I was using Evernote, and as Notes, the application from Apple, improved, all those others just started to slowly go away. And I think I'm down to just one other one now that I use primarily for work, and then I keep all my personal stuff in Notes because it syncs to all my devices. So, it's kind of rare that Apple develops something like this that pushes other things in the category out.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true, right? That seemed to be one of the big app categories in the early days of the App Store. There was Simple Note, do you remember right? And then John Gruber and some of those fellas had a Notes app. I can't think of the name. Vesper, that was what it was called, which was a really attractive app at the time. And even what used to be like Titans, like Evernote. Evernote's had a lot of problems lately, and I've even recommended for a lot of people to move their notes out of Evernote. And you can actually export those from Evernote and import them into Notes, and that works really well. But yeah, it is sort of unusual in that Apple has improved the Notes app to the point that, yeah, it really has drained a lot of those apps out of the App Store, which, is unfortunate for those developers. But at the same time, in my line of thinking, this is something that should be basic system functionality. And, honestly, I think there's still a lot of room there for third-party Notes apps. But the Notes app, it hits a really good place between capability and simplicity. One example is in how it does formatting. It doesn't have all the formatting options of like a text editor, or I should say a word processor. or an app like Evernote. Evernote has a built-in word processor. It can do pretty much any kind of word processing you like. Notes is a lot more simple. It can do things like it can do bold, it can do strike through, it can do underline. Um, you can change the look of the text a little bit. You can make it bigger or smaller. There's some styles you can apply, but it's not overly complicated. It's all the formatting options can fit inside of a post-it note. And I think it strikes a really good balance because I don't use those advanced formatting options very much in Evernote just because it's too much, especially if you're on a small screen like on an iPhone. And I find that the Notes app, the Apple's Notes app, gives you just what you need and not much more.
Which is why somebody is going to ask both of us, why do you need a take control book if Notes is that simple and easy to use? And Notes has a surprising amount of power depending on what you want to do with it. If you dig just a little, you don't have to dig much, but if you dig just a little, there are a lot of new things and not maybe unexpected things, but just not evident things. Is that why you decided to and wanted to do the Notes app book?
Yeah, exactly. And over the years, I've uncovered a lot of features that aren't immediately obvious. I even found some while I was writing the book itself. And there's also a lot of use cases I don't think a lot of people probably don't think of. Here's an example. A lot of people probably don't think of the Notes app as a serious to-do list manager. But if you're into something like getting things done, which whoever isn't familiar with getting things done, it's very much based on context, on the idea of splitting your tasks up by where you're at the time. So you'll have I'll focus on these things at the office and focus on these things at home. And there's also a big focus on projects and then individual tasks inside of a project just being something that involves more than one task. Anyway, and that's all very possible to do inside Notes because you can use different headings to stand in for contexts. You can actually indent and outdent list items, so you can have as many sub-list items as you want. So you could have one list as a project and then indent below that and even indent under that if you really want to get technical with it. And unlike an app like, say, OmniFocus, which is a great to-do list app, if you want something a little more free form, the Notes offers that flexibility. So, me personally, I'm really bad at, sticking religiously to any sort of complex system like that. But, the great thing about Notes is that it lets me adapt to what I like from those sorts of systems and then to throw away what I don't. And, if I want to try something totally different, I always just create a new note and just do something in a different way. There's lots of different things like that there. For instance, a lot of people may not know that you can use Notes to scan documents. Notes also has a lot of very powerful sketching tools. Notes can do, to a limited degree, handwriting recognition. And there's lots of little hidden features in the Mac. Like, for instance, you can pop an individual note out, and that's not such an easy thing to find. There's a photos browser built into the Notes app for the Mac, so you can browse through your photo library directly from Notes. It even integrates with image capture. You can import images from scanners and stuff, which I don't even know why that's there. It's just kind of an odd thing. But hey, that's something you probably didn't know about and you might find useful. There's lots of just odd little things that are hidden in the Notes app. And it's not terribly complex. And this is, I should say, this is a very short and cheap Take Control book. It's only about 50 pages, and we're only asking $5.99 for it because it is a shorter book. But it's really short, focused, and to the point. So you're not going to spend more than an afternoon going through this, and you're bound to learn something about the Notes app that you didn't know before.
Thank you for bringing that up because I know it was a short book, which is appropriate. Why drag it out to 100 pages, when you can say it in 50? But yeah, Notes seems to just take anything and you can drop it into a note and it can live there for you. And of course, the syncing part back and forth with through iCloud has been seamless, and it's been a huge benefit because now I feel like there's certain things, even if it's a draft document or whatever, I'll prepare it in Notes because I know that no matter where I am with whatever device, the current iteration is going to be on there, and I can update it, and then I go to back to my Mac, and there it is, or I go to my iPad, and there it is. It's just one of those things that works the way it should.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I mentioned in the book. It's like they say about cameras, the one you have on you is, the best one is the one you have on you. And that's very true of the Notes app. If you're using a third party app, yeah, it's great if you have it installed on every device. But if you're anything like me, you forget to put on your iPad until you need it. And then you have to go to the App Store, install it, log in. It just adds friction to that process. The Apple's Notes app is always there, always for you, assuming you're tied into the Apple ecosystem. Now, if you use an Android phone and a Mac and an iPad, it won't be that frictionless. And Notes probably isn't the app for you in that case. But I'm sure a lot of people who watch this show, probably most people who watch this show, are firmly entrenched in the Apple ecosystem. I know that's true for Take Control readers and Tidbits readers as well. So, if you're one of those people, you have the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac, you're all set. And also, and I do cover this a bit in the book, where it needs to be covered, there's also a web version that if you go to iCloud.com, and you can do that on Windows, Linux. I don't think it works on Android. I don't have a good enough Android device to test, so if anyone wants to let me know about that, but I'm sure it'll work fine in Chrome OS. But you can access your notes from there too, and a lot of the more important functions are accessible from the web browser. So it's the sort of app that's always with you, and it's one of the reasons that it's such a good thing to learn about.
Okay, so I just learned something. I'm a little embarrassed. I never even thought of looking in iCloud for it. It's not that often that I'm without one of my Apple devices. So, but the idea that it's there and my notes would be there, that's phenomenal. Josh, you mentioned handwriting recognition and sketching capabilities. Now, I'm assuming you're talking about on the iPad because with the Apple Pencil. I am not an Apple Pencil user, so I really haven't explored those. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Well, you don't have to have an Apple Pencil to take advantage of those features. You can do the same thing from an iPhone or even an iPad that doesn't use an Apple Pencil. But even to a limited degree on the Mac does have some markup features that are universal to the operating system. But anyway, I have an entire chapter dedicated to those. And there's two kinds of two ways you can add drawings to a note. You can do an inline drawing, or you can do a sketch. And the neat thing about the inline drawings is if you do have an Apple Pencil and a compatible iPad, you can just start drawing in a note. And you can write text if you want to. There's all sorts of different things you can do there, and there's lots of different tools I talk about in the book. One neat thing, if you have an Apple Pencil, this is one of the more clever features I think Apple has. It's called Instant Notes, and this was introduced with iOS 11. And if you have an Apple Pencil, you have an iPad that accepts Apple Pencil input, you tap the Apple Pencil on the screen and it starts a new note. And so you can be in a meeting or talking to a client, and you just pull your iPad out, wake the screen up, tap it with your Apple Pencil, and just start drawing, start writing wherever you need to do, which is a really super clever feature. And if you don't have an Apple Pencil, or if you're on an iPhone, you can actually activate that from the lock screen. There is a control center control that I explain in the book. I'm also explaining this in my iOS 12 book also, but you can tap that button and start a note from Control Center even while your phone is locked. So that's another thing that makes Notes so great. It's so easy to start a new note. You don't even have to unlock your phone or iPad.
And those are the kind of things that if you don't have somebody like you who has spent all the time digging it out, that you might stumble across, but probably you're not going to, because just what we're saying, Notes is not the kind of app you spend a lot of time feeling like you need to learn. It's just it's there. You think you know everything it does, or at least you think everything it does for you. And there are all these other things it might do for you if you just knew how to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so I guess my sales pitch for the book is, sure, you could sit there and dig through all this yourself, just like I did, and figure this all out yourself. But why do that when I've already done it, and you pay me $6 and it'll take you an hour or two to read this book, and you're going to know a lot more about that app that you probably already use on a regular basis, if not every day. and you're going to get a lot more out of it. And it's going to make you more productive. It's going to make your iOS and Mac usage more efficient. And, because I use notes for all kinds of things. I use it for to-do lists on a day-to-day basis. I use it for, I often use it just for, scribbling down quick notes when I'm talking to somebody. It's because it's always there. And the great thing is you scribble down those quick notes. And if you read my instructions, how to turn those into lists, how to format them, how to make them more searchable, you make those quick scribbles into something a lot more. And I even show in the book, I show a list, and I develop it over, using several different techniques to the point that it starts off as this sort of brain dump, and then it turns into something that's well formatted with headings and indents, outdents, things like that, and it becomes more of an outline. And that's one of the great things about notes. It's very low friction. Just like I was just explaining, you can start and create a note from the lock screen without unlocking your phone. Well, you can do that quickly, dump stuff out of your head, and then go back later and apply some simple formatting rules to it and make it a lot more readable and make it something that's more preservation friendly, and something you can refer back to in 6 months and say, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking then, instead of this happens with me with notes a lot, especially before they added all this stuff. You just jot some stuff down and you look at it a couple of years later and what the hell was I thinking here? This is nonsense.
That never happens to any of us, Josh. Yeah, we said this about Joe Kissel's Apple ID book, that this is one that everybody has to have an Apple ID. And I can't imagine that there are that many people out there that use any Apple device that don't have a use for notes. And so I would encourage everybody, go check this out, because just like here, Josh has taught me a couple things I didn't know about, and you will find things that you don't know about and would probably benefit you. No question about it. Josh, anything else we should talk about with notes? It's a short discussion for a short book about a simple program, but
there's a lot of things I can mention about notes. As I mentioned, you can scan documents with it. You can scan several pages if you want to. You can create notes with Siri or with the HomePod. You can import images into notes. So you can also even add things. You can. I spent a chapter explaining how you can share different kinds of things with notes. Like, for instance, you can record something with the voice memo app and then share that to a note and embed that in a note and sync that to all your other devices. There's so many different techniques you can use for notes. And I present it in a way just to give you ideas, because I think everyone, they come up with ways to use these in different ways. And that's one of the things I love about notes, is it doesn't try to force a structure on you. There's no rigidity to it, but it does offer a lot of simple tools that you can use in creative ways to organize your own personal information. And you can do things like you can mix sketches with voice memos with notes. You can attach PDFs. I can even embed one of my Take Control books into a note. I've done that before. So there's lots of different creative things you can do. So I encourage you, check out the book and find out all the things you can use with that Notes app that's on your phone that maybe you've been ignoring all this time.
Yeah, please don't ignore this. I'm with Josh. I'm a huge advocate of Notes, not putting anybody else's program down, but just the fact that it's built in, it's free, it's there. Use it. Why not? And find out what all it can do. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Opsgenie by Atlassian. With Opsgenie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. It is easy for your company to look good when things are going right. It is when things go wrong that the really great companies shine. And trust me, sooner or later, things are going to go wrong. How your company looks when an incident occurs depends on what you do before it happens. That's where Opsgenie by Atlassian comes in. Opsgenie empowers development and operations teams to plan for service disruptions and stay in control during incidents. And control is what you want when things go wrong. Opsgenie gives teams the power to respond quickly and effectively to unplanned issues, helping notify all the right people through a combination of scheduling and escalation paths that address communication challenges like time zones and holiday issues. Opsgenie allows for deep flexibility in the how, when, and where aspects of alerts being deployed. With over 200 integrations with apps like Jira, Amazon CloudWatch, New Relic, and many more, you can integrate with the apps you're already using, saving valuable time in setup and training. Software has become a central part of our daily lives, both business and personal, making things easier, faster, and more accessible. But that means that when your service is down, it makes a bigger impact on your customers and on their perception of you. Opsgenie helps you keep those downtimes to a minimum, alerting you to when they happen so you can respond faster. And in the reliability game, every minute counts. You can get your company a free account, not a trial account, but a free account, and add up to 5 team members for free right now by visiting Opsgenie.com. You heard me, a free account and up to 5 team members free at Opsgenie.com. Find out why, with Opsgenie, you will never miss a critical alert again, and your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Thanks to Opsgenie for their support of MacVoices. Josh, one thing that, as you were saying there, especially about the voice memo, that I hadn't really thought, have you done any experimentation? Is there a limit to the size of a note, of what you can put in, and or how much text or how much audio, video? I mean, I'm sure at some point there's a limit, but have you found any?
I haven't found it, and I haven't exactly tried, but there was some notes I made for the book just to sort of as examples where I would add like, oh, here's a video and here's an audio recording and here's a large image and here's a PDF. I would just cram a bunch of stuff into a note. I never hit a limit. Now, I will say a couple things about that. First of all, understand that if you sync with iCloud, this will count against your iCloud storage space. So don't go crazy adding stuff to a note because it will cost you money in the long run. The other thing is that I haven't had much problem with this lately, but I do know it has been a problem for some of my readers, and it has been a problem for me personally in the past where if you put too much stuff in a note, it can kind of get clogged in the iCloud pipes. So, maybe not just go hog wild, but, me personally, I have never, at least not in a while, I've never had like hit a real wall in terms of what you can add to a note.
Okay. And sort of along those lines, because as you said, it's syncing through iCloud, so it will take up iCloud space. You can export notes as well, and take all of that out so that it doesn't have to necessarily live in notes if you don't need it anymore, but just want to archive it and not be sucking up all that iCloud space.
Right. Well, you can't export out of notes. That's the one trap Apple has set for you.
Can't you? Okay.
No, but you can import into notes. And I actually had a gentleman emailed me today. I can't remember the name of the app. I never heard of it before. It hasn't been updated in like 10 years. And he's like, well, can I export out of this and import? And so I downloaded the app just to try it and see. And it turns out, yeah, sure enough, it was as simple as just exporting it to rich text and then importing it into notes, and it worked flawlessly. And so it's really good at importing, actually. At least the Mac version is. You can import notes on the iOS version as well. I offer instructions for it if that's the way you really want to go. But if you do it on the Mac, it's just going to work better.
Yeah. Well, again, take control of notes. Josh Centers has spent some time digging in with this. As he said, it's a relatively inexpensive book, and I would tell you go and check it out. I won't guarantee it'll make you more productive, but I think the odds are pretty high that it will, one way or another. TakeControlBooks.com, of course, is where you get it. Josh, thank you. I know you're working on some other projects, so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you're not back here at some point in the near future.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Chuck.
It's always a pleasure. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll be back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Mac Voices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with Mac Voices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep Mac Voices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.